There's single family, but there's duplexes, there's a apartment building across the street. There's also townhouses half a block down on France, just like on Oakland.
Okay, we need to get back to, so now the planning commission discussed it. Okay, so we'll go to the comments, thoughts, considerations, enlightening insights. Yes.
It's always on. It's always on.
I will ask a question here, this is more to Bart, about what the commission is involved in here. You know, there's some ideas that I have about how to help with traffic flow, about making progress in more than one way to keep people from turning around, that takes away some of the craziness of behavior, to make the metro market parking structure via this one you only get to go in and that one you only get to go out, and that would reduce some of the congestion of people trying to get in and out of the parking structure. It feels like from the data and the presentation that this is maybe unpleasant, especially to the folks impacted, but not unworkable for that space. We can address some of the other parking and traffic flow issues.
I guess just to respond to that as best I can, we're asked to consider the application under current conditions.
Yeah.
And so as it's presently, designed or built, would this business, function appropriately for the neighborhood? I guess what the question is, if, the plan commission feels like it could, subject to other actions taking place, that would need to take place first before we can, consider it. So because the village board would need to make, any change to a street going one way or two ways or moving parking, that's under the village board's jurisdiction. So,
what about I'm sorry to interrupt, the ordinance, changing the ordinance that folks can use that surface lot 8 to 8 and changing that to a time before the place opens?
So that's actually in a parking agreement with the private property owner. And so that, as I mentioned in the memo, they have the right to change that within 60-day notice to the village without us having to wait on that. So they could, if they're willing to, modify their own agreement, change those hours. So that's something that the applicant and that property owner could control. Something larger in terms of modifying the parking structure at the metro market or modifying one-way or two-way traffic would need to take place prior to this approval, being considered, if that was the condition upon which you were looking to favorably.
You made it a
Right.
written condition, okay.
Right.
It could also be considered as ways to alleviate it if it is a problem.
Correct. I mean, and for this application,
Things that the neighborhood could propose to the village.
correct.
Or, the residents of Wood or Jarvis could stand up and say, hey, make my street one way, and it'll stop all this turning around in driveways.
Yeah, and for those of you that have been paying attention, the village did a prioritization exercise earlier this year, spring, summer, that discussed, transportation being a very high, perhaps #1 issue in terms of what needs to be looked at. So I would imagine in 2019 there will be, efforts to look specifically at these intersections or at these particular points. Unfortunately, we're reviewing the application under current conditions, and so I appreciate that those things could happen. It's just unfortunate that if that's what it's going to take to alleviate some of the things, we don't have those conditions right now in front of us.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I guess my comments would be, I expect that some people are going to be from the neighborhood and walking. I guess I don't see it as much of a concern as the residents, because I think that people would use those spots in that parking lot. That's what I would do, I would try to, first and foremost, I would not be parking on the side street. I'd try to go through the parking lot and drop the kids off, as it was shown in the video. And I was looking at the bank hours don't start till 9. So in the morning when you're most wanting to get to work, I feel like, there would be the spaces there in that lot to get a large number of kids in and out. I do see it as a benefit to the neighborhood in general, and also a benefit to the business district and other vacant spots on Oakland. I think it could be workable.
I appreciate the effort done to make that video. That didn't seem to me to be anything like the situation we have on Oakland Avenue. That block is just the busiest of our downtown. We've got that 2-story grocery store, 4-story parking structure, and there is a lot of activity both in the morning and the evening. And so I do appreciate what the residents who live right in that vicinity have to say. I live on the east side of Shorewood, so I'm not there, on a daily basis. The problem I have is that there are a lot of assumptions being made. There's an assumption that the parents won't park in that parking structure because they don't want to cross the street. There's an assumption that, they can park down the street. But then in winter, what parent with a, 6-month-old or a 1-year-old is going to want to walk that far in the snow? So I do think that there might be an issue with queuing. And it's not that the parents are going to be bad drivers. The bad drivers are already here. They're blowing through stop signs. Every week we hear about a pedestrian, adult or child, or on a bike, almost getting hit on that stretch on Oakland. So that, I think, is the fear for most of the people who have expressed concerns. And I mean, the first time we heard that the applicant, she wanted us to move the bus stop. This time it's, move out residents who have no other place to park because they're renters. They're getting ready for work and finally they can move an hour early. It just seems to be a lot to ask of a neighborhood. I mean, I think we all agree it's a fabulous idea, but it's just there's a lot of assumptions being made as far as behavior of what people are going to do that's not really like concrete evidence. And that is kind of a tricky thing to weigh when you're making a decision. Plus the fact that your real estate there is vastly overpriced. That those are $750,000 homes. But
I had a question about when you were talking about the parking and the 30, that the parking code or our zoning ordinance talk about employees but not the drop off of the children, right? So,
Correct.
So, but the parking study that we have, which is our substantial evidence, includes parents as well as employees. So now we're, even though that's not what's specified in ordinance, we're still looking at that in terms of this conditional use permit.
Correct. I would say as part of business operations, it's clear that parents will be coming and going. Whether or not those spaces are available exclusively for drop-off pickup or for employees or however that works, that needs to be, perhaps either documented or signed appropriately or however that works. So the code, and I have it up here for the language, only talks about employees. And so in terms of, because daycares are not specifically in the code, the closest that we can go off is a nursery school, which is the same age of children, requires one parking space for each faculty member or other employee. It does not reference drop-off or pickup. So in terms of the special exception that you're looking at, it is specific to its employees, but your point is well taken. If we know that other people are going to be using those spaces, is it reasonable to believe that they're available for employees? If the employees are not parking there, then for sure. If they are parking there, then to Commissioner Kylie Miller's point, how can you assume who's going to be using what? So I mean, there's a lot of behavioral aspects that are needed to be, understood or comprehended here. The applicant has indicated as best they can how their behavioral functions in their other facilities. They presented that as, their understanding of how it is. They have a traffic study. But it is a lot of assumptions on behavior that's human nature. I don't know if that helps or answers the question or not, but the parking is specific to employees within the code. But if those are not available, that's your determination.
Yeah, the other thing that struck me about the parking study is I think the percent occupied, I think it was 67, but then it goes over, I forget what the exact percentages were. I mean, and you're talking about 87% occupied on a residential block. I mean, people live there, and that means that there is always someone parked there, and that I think that gets to one of the conditions about use or enjoyment of your property. If you're blocking, you no longer have the use and access to parking because your block is basically parked up the entire time. So that's a concern for me, that, the other is that the traffic study was done during the summer months, which I guess for daycare, you're there summer or winter, but traffic and parking are quite different in Shorewood during school time versus summer. And so I would have preferred to see some traffic data taken during September. The other question I have though, and I think the applicant brought it up, is that, something is gonna go in there. So if we had, since the ordinance is only in terms of parking considering employees, when Goldie's was there, would there have been this same number of employees? I mean, is the parking demand, let's say we get another Goldie's, are we gonna just have the same parking issues, or is there something particular and different about this use in terms of parking demand?
So I looked at it real briefly, in terms of retail requirement. Just one second, I don't have it memorized, unfortunately.
I think with most other uses, you would have a green space in back, so there would be those additional spots that they're losing.
Right.
But it would also put more traffic out on Wood, because I think that's the way people exit right now. It's just a one-way.
Oh, you have to exit, well, you can't exit Jarvis.
Not from those parking spaces that are in back.
Oh, right, from the ones under it would, yeah.
So for business district uses, it was one parking space per 250 square feet of floor area for retail or office uses not specifically listed. So if it was just a general retail store,
Right.
and say it's 10,000 square feet for easy math, right, we're talking 40 parking spaces, am I running that math? 4 per thousand, and 250 square feet, so 4 per thousand, times 9 is 36. So it's treating them similarly, whether or not the village's parking requirements are currently up to current
Right.
expectations is our question, but it's what we have to work with, is what I would suggest. So if you felt as though a exception for a retail establishment was acceptable based on those 13 criteria, they probably have to come for that as well, is what I'm suggesting. And that's kind of just how the code currently works. So yeah, a retail use actually in this case would probably require more, whether or not they all come at one time or not would be your determination in terms of the parking requested.
Okay, that's employees and customers.
Correct, that is just generally 250 square feet per floor area.
Well, maybe going to that, the code isn't the best, but maybe we just need to consider, let's say we have another large retail or, some kind of service business, massage there, I don't know, something that's more of a service and not retail. Is there going to be substantially less parking and traffic?
Or if it's a bar or restaurant, is there going to be
It's
significantly
right.
more,
Exactly.
which is more likely at this point.
All right.
Just to change the subject a little bit, I do have some questions, as the village attorney said, that we've not really addressed yet, but were on my mind from the very beginning. And in the company description, and I guess these are questions for the applicant, in the company description, you described the curriculum that the children are going to be introduced to: language, math, science, geography, culture, art, music, and so on, reading, writing. And, normally, when we, like a couple months ago, we approved a permit for a chiropractor, for a massage therapist. And when there are those medical things, I rely on our planning director to check the licensing of those applicants. In your description of the staff, the only background that I see for someone with an early childhood education background would be for the director. So it's nothing for the teachers, although you're likely to be college educated. So I guess I would like to know a bit more about the training that you plan to undergo to be credentialed as the lead teacher, and what kind of background and experience you expect your teachers to have, so that we are talking about a daycare with a curriculum, an early learning environment, and not just a bilingual babysitting operation.
Yeah, I'd be happy to address that if I may. Casa de Corazon operates under two authorities. One is state licensure, and the other is NACE accreditation. NACE is an acronym for the National Association for the Education of Young Children. Accreditation that's a national firm that basically you apply to as an early childhood education program in order to meet the standards that are of the highest level of kindergarten readiness and cognitive development for birth to 5. Only 11% of programs in the whole United States are NACE accredited, and CASA is proud to be one of them. We also abide by all state licensing